Asani Pettiford is an award-winning author and speaker, specializing in human sexuality and interpersonal relationships, and the founder and president of Couples Academy, a relationship training center. Welcome, Asani.
Thanks for having me.
First, let's answer the age-old question, can men and women be friends?
I think it depends upon who you're talking about. The reality is every single relationship, whether male, female, or male, every single relationship on the planet Earth is based upon some form of attraction. Now, it may not be emotional, it may not be sexual, it may not be physical, but there's something that draws you to that person, and you come together based upon that commonality. And if you don't have boundaries in your relationship, if you haven't guarded your heart, it can lead into something that is inappropriate.
Can you give us some examples of solid boundaries in terms of, male-male friendships, female-female friendships, male-female friendships? Like, how can you establish a sense of boundaries that are sort of universal?
Okay, so if I'm in a relationship and I had an opposite sex friend prior to my relationship with that friend has got to change. The nature of it has got to change. So if I'm the type that can chill with my partner, my friend, go to the movies, talk on the phone, and have a good time, and now I'm in a committed relationship, imagine my woman knowing that I'm on the phone with my friend, engaging in just casual conversations, just kicking it, when I have somebody in my own home that I should be building that same type of rapport with. So it's got to change, because if it doesn't, it can create vulnerability within your existing relationship.
And in what way would you suggest, or should it change? In what way?
Well, my thing is this. If I have a friend of the opposite sex, that friend has to now befriend my wife or my girlfriend so that there's a level of comfort there. If my opposite sex friend has a boyfriend, right? Now we have to become couple friends. So I shouldn't be able to do anything outside of the presence of my wife that I would do with an opposite sex friend, because it can create all types of relationships. Now, when you think about infidelity, a lot of infidelity within relationships take place with quote unquote friends.
Well, Hassani, listen, that sounds really, no, that sounds great.
Yes.
But let's make it practical. So you say to your wife, you say, honey, I want you to become friends with my friend who I've been friends with for a very long time. And your wife says, yeah, but I don't really mess with her like that. Like, I don't really get along with her that well. What does that then do to your friendship? How do you navigate through that type of situation? Because that's not always the case where two women are willing to just go, oh, okay, let's be friends.
Well, see, the reality is, once you enter into an intimate, committed, long-lasting, mutually beneficial relationship, that becomes your primary relationship, right?
Okay.
And everything else comes secondary to that. So whatever creates vulnerability or issues in that relationship, you've got to make certain adjustments and tweaks. If I'm on a job working 9 to 5, I'm developing relationships with all types of people.
Sure.
And the reality is, you spend more time with people who you're not in your home with than those in your home. You spend 8, 9 hours with regular people, and according to statistics, you only spend around 5 to 10 minutes of quality conversation with your partner.
Wow.
Already, just from the numbers alone, that presents a problem. If it's a business relationship, fine, let's keep it business. The problem is, when it turns from business to casual, and the reality is, the foundation of all communication is intimacy. Intimacy means intimacy. So when I allow you to see inside my heart and see inside my mind and see inside my emotions, that creates a problem. And so those platonic lines all of a sudden become very blurred.
Do you think a couple could have a sexual relationship and still be friends?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. First of all, by definition alone, when you look up the word platonic, it means intimate and affectionate relationship with no sex. By definition, sex is more than just a physical interaction. You bring your heart, your mind, your spirit, your body, your everything into that experience. So I may be in a sex ship with someone because I'm forced to, because the person I'm having sex with doesn't want something more, but it doesn't mean that there's no emotional attachment that I have with that other person that clouds that interaction. And oftentimes, 9 times out of 10, there's some type of emotional connection that one has for the other that the other one just doesn't have.
What should you do if you're in a platonic friendship, but one person has feelings but the other one doesn't?
It's important to have that conversation, because I've been in that scenario before.
Friend
and that's what happens, because you're communicating, you're conversating, you're socializing, and it's quite natural when you have a man and a female together over the course of time, something's going to develop, and it can become awkward and
it's
weird,
very awkward.
But you have to have those conversations and have them in a palatable way to just let that person know that, you know what, we're not seeing the same thing or looking for the same thing.
Can you talk about the difference between male-male relationships, female-female relationships, and male-female relationships. Because I have to say, I have a friend in particular who's a guy who just doesn't see the value in female friendships. He's like, I don't need women friends, like in any way. They don't add any value. Like, my boys are my boys, but what am I going to get out of a friendship with a woman?
Well, I think what's interesting, when men are alone in their own social space, and when women are alone in their own social space, there are conversations and interactions that they have that they wouldn't normally have with the opposite sex. Because there's a comfort zone there. There's a level of trust. And I think it's important to have opposite sex relationships because you can learn how the other sex thinks. You can learn how they communicate.
So do you have a book or a seminar or something on this that you teach in the mass brothers?
Absolutely. Actually, my wife and I formed an organization called Couples Academy.
Awesome.
And we formed it because we were committed to placing couples on the path to fulfillment, because there's so many people who are miserable in their relationships and haven't realized that it really comes down to skills. Just like you work a job and you develop skills to make you a better employer, you develop skills to make you better at your craft and acting, you can develop skills, couple skills, relationship skills to make your relationship work. And that's what we do.
So do you think exes can have healthy friendships?
I think it's all case by case, because if we have children together, then you're going to be in my life.
Right.
So I've got to make that thing work. But if we don't have any type of attachment to one another, I don't know how it can necessarily be productive, because when you look at the studies and the research, when you begin to connect with former partners and lovers, your brain memorizes the emotional and romantic feelings that you once had. And through conversation, it can come back alive very, very quickly. That's what happens with infidelity on the internet, online, particularly through Facebook and other social media platforms. So you got to be really careful about the nature of that relationship.
Yeah. Let's say you're in a relationship with the same sex.
Okay.
Do the same rules apply?
When it comes to intimate relationships, whether it's opposite sex or same sex, the reality is those rules do apply. And let me just be clear. I'm not suggesting that we should not have friends. I think it's important to have intimate, romantic friendships, relationship, and then social friendships. But the nature of those relationships have to be crystal clear.
You ever find that men have other issues, men have their own issues befriending other male friends?
I think men in general have a problem socializing in a larger sense. A lot of times as men, we're wired to be very independent. We run to arcade. We don't necessarily need a lot of relationships. So you have to understand, the way we interact with each other is different than women. When women get together, what do? They connect.
Sure.
And they connect based upon communication. So the minute a woman walks in the door to the minute she leaves, they're talking and talking and talking. Where two men can come together, never utter a word. We could be watching a basketball game, but we bond. Yeah. Bonding doesn't require a lot of communication necessarily.
Right.
So I think, when dealing with opposite sex, relationships, you have to kind of navigate how to make things work based upon how you're wired, and you have to learn and develop certain social skills to make these relationships work.
What if I don't like my man's male friends? And what effect? No, because that happens. You fight over friends. We're always talking about women and men.
Especially in a committed relationship, because sometimes you can have friends that are a complete negative influence on your partner's life, and you can see things that they just can't see. And so you have to have some serious conversations. But the thing is, it's about how you present it. When you come in a very boisterous, aggressive, you need to cut him off type of thing, no man or woman for that matter is going to take to that. But when you come and your conversation's more palatable, and it's more about you as opposed to me, because I don't want you to have that friend maybe because of me as opposed to you. And so I think it's important to just really communicate. And I think at the end of the day, we don't spend enough time really doing that and bringing understanding. Because if I could shed light to you regarding a friend and help you see something that you didn't see, it may work.
Sonny, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been great.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Join the conversation using #ExhaleTV. When we come back, Issa, Melinda, and I will talk with a man I'd love to have a close friendship with. Figure